To the west of Wrocław in Poland, it is dotted with palaces throughout villages everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's palaces in villages. And today, I want to show you what a palace in Poland looks like. Check this out. That right there is a palace in Poland. It's fair to say that this place has definitely seen better days. I'm calling this place a palace, and that's literally what the Poles call it. So in Polish, they call it a pałac. And like I said, the west of Poland, west of Wrocław, villages are dotted with these, what they call pałaces. And some have been renovated and people live in them. But this one here literally dates back to the 1700s. And you can tell, back in the 1700s, this literally would have been a palace. This palace here is situated in the village of Zrodla, which is about 20 kilometers west of Wrocław. And this palace specifically here was originally owned by the von Karma family, which was an aristocratic Prussian dynasty. Since then, it's been leased to district police officials, military officers. It's always been a place of prestige. Some very important people have worked out of this building and lived in this building. After the Second World War ended, the Soviet Union annexed eastern parts of Poland, which now belong to Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine. And as compensation to Poland, western parts of Poland, or the western border of Poland, was moved further westward, taking territory from Germany. So Wrocław, up until the end of the Second World War, and west of Wrocław belonged to Germany. I just mentioned the Soviet Union. After the end of the Second World War, Poland fell under the influence of the Soviet Union and entered their communist era, which lasted all the way up until 1989. In 1947, the Polish People's Republic was officially established. And that regime, it lasted until the end of that communist era as well. The Polish Communist government established collective farms known as PGRs. PGRs in Polish is PGRs. And PGRs, I found out up until recently, wasn't actually a word. It was PGR, which is how they sound out their letters. And PGR stands for Państwowe Gospodarstwo Rolne, which translates to, in English, State Agricultural Farms. And this palace and palaces all around this western side of Poland has a lot to do with those collective farms, or the PGRs, or the Państwowe Gospodarstwo Rolne. The territory west of Wrocław, the territory that was taken from Germany and given to Poland by the Soviet Union, is known as the recovered territories. And in these recovered territories, where all these palaces exist that were once owned by very rich German folk, were seized by the Polish state, by the Polish government. And these palaces, many of them were repurposed as, administration centers for these collective farms. So this was basically a bureau that they would have people work out of and manage these collective farms. So all around here is farmland, or pole, as they say, fields. We're going to take a walk through these fields because I love it. Don't worry about the cities in Poland, the big smoke in Poland. Village life, I'm telling you, it's where it's at. So right now I'm only about 100 meters from the palace that we were just in. And you see, it's just all farmland. This was all that state-owned, government-owned, collective farmland. The PGRs, the PGRs, the Państwowe Gospodarstwo Rolne, the state agricultural farms. This is all privately owned now, but once upon a time it wasn't. And those palaces were set up as administrative buildings. I'm heading to a monument now out in these fields. In Australia, roads typically like this that dissect farmland are privately owned. But in Poland, these roads are what they call polne drogi, field roads, essentially is what it translates to. And it's not private property. I'm not doing anything illegal or wrong by riding along this road, even though that's privately owned farmland, that's privately owned farmland. You'll hear the Poles often say, you know, go over to that village over there, or go here and take the polną drogę. Weź polną drogę, będzie ci szybciej. Take the field road, it'll be a lot quicker. And they'll do that. Dzień dobry. Taking a field road isn't always going to be the most comfortable thing that you do. But boy, man, is it peaceful. It doesn't look like much, and it's not much now, but it's got some significance. The Battle of Lutynia took place on the 5th of December 1757, and it was part of what was called or known as the 7-Year War. The centre of Lutynia is over there, and I'm right now in the middle of the fields between Zrodla and Lutynia. And just to think that a couple of hundred years ago, 300 years ago nearly, there was a major battle that took place here that lasted for 7 years. So what does this monument actually symbolise? This monument symbolises a major victory for Frederick the Great and the Prussian army against the Austrian army. And it was a significant part of allowing them to be able to take hold of this land 300 odd years ago. But just to think of the people that died here, 300 years ago, which in the overall scheme of things isn't a long time. It's so peaceful here. I come here so often. I run these fields covering kilometre after kilometre after kilometre, and just come out here and I meditate on this monument, just to think how impossible it would have been to be able to meditate in these fields in 1757. No Polish village is without a church, sometimes even 2 or 3. Here comes the army. Everyone knows it's pretty volatile in Europe at the moment. There's no two ways about that. When I run out in the fields out there, you hear gunshots a lot and explosions and a ton of training going on. It's pretty cool, but this country has a ton of history, some of which we've already covered here today. And everyone knows what's going on in Ukraine, between the Ukrainians and the Russians. Poland's had their fair share of hardships over the years, so it's nothing to be laughed at. But one thing's for sure is that I think the Poles are definitely prepared this time around for whatever might happen. So this is the Church of Zrodla, now a Catholic church. It's been otherwise, it's been a Protestant church, but this church was originally built in 1220, between 1220 and 1230. It's obviously undergone a series of renovations since then, but it's 700 years old. Check out this bell tower. There's the rope up there to the bell up there. Not the most confident I've felt going up a staircase. There's the bell. Whoops. let's get down. Let's get out of here. But before we leave, I want to show you this wall outside. So you got this church that was built in the 1200s, and you've got this wall that surrounds this church, and it was built in the 1600s, but it was built for a purpose, and that purpose is, you'll see in the wall there's slits. These slits here were built so soldiers could arm themselves on this side of the wall and fight. It's a cemetery as well, and there's tombstones here dating back to before the 1200s. I genuinely find this wall so fascinating. The history of the place, it just continues to blow me away. So that's it, maybe a little bit of a side of Poland that many won't show and you won't get to see. You know, you always see the big cities, Wroclaw, which is obviously 20 kilometers from here, and I'll do a video of my own on Wroclaw. You got Warsaw, you got Krakow, you know, very popular, well-known Polish cities. But here's a bit of village life and a bit of village history, and a bit of history on the western side of Poland, the PGRs, the palaces, churches in villages, bit of village life, bit of village scenery, and it's definitely something I wanted to film for my own memory. So if you watched it, I hope you enjoyed it.